Hey fellas, what's good? Panda here, and today's video was heavily inspired by the same video made by Mustard and Ketchup on the series of Mortal Kombat. I want to do the same for Guilty Gear, as there has been so many changes to the systems that we use and have gotten used to. I'll be covering the 4 main games in the series, being Missing Link, Accent Core, XRD, and Strive. These will be my opinions, so don't take anything at heart, and I want to hear how you rate these mechanics. The other rule is this: I will rank the tools based on importance, so I'm not going to rank something as like jumping or blocking, for example, unless blocking or jumping has something interesting attached to it, like super jumping or faultless defense. Everything will be ranked from 0 to 10. So that's it for the rules. Let's get started with Missing Link. Missing Link is the first game in the series, so I got a little experimental with some of the mechanics. A lot didn't carry over from this game, and a lot of the main ones were still to be invented. Some will get ranked here and it'll cover for the rest of the game, so let's get started with the movement. The game has very unique dashes for every character. A cool system for approaching, but it's nothing insane. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Super jumps have been in the series for a long time, and in every game they're a very niche approach tool. It's decent, but in this game it was a main stall tool, so I'd give it about a 6 out of 10. The cool thing about the series is the air movement with double jumps or air dash, and it allows for a lot of creativity and makes the games feel freeform due to how varied the movement can be per character. They also allow jump cancels, which give unique setups or air combos. I like it. I'd give it a solid like 9 out of 10. In this game specifically, you can turn around in the air to do an air dash the other way, which is neat. I like using it for this. A million out of 10. Generally though, this is a 2 out of 10 mechanic. This would suck in the future games with the amount of keep away that exists. Let's talk about some of the defensive mechanics now. Backdash is a mainstay and a solid defense option, as it gives invincibility and avoids throws. However, in this game it didn't have recovery, so it was super strong with none of the balancing. So in this game specifically, 2 out of 10. Way too insane. Air teching is a mechanic that stuck around from this game, allowing for breaking out of fake combos. I like it because you can sit in the lab and create funny combos that don't exist, whilst making it very fair and balanced in game, so you're not getting too heavily comboed. 8 out of 10. Faultless defense is one of the best mechanics of the game. Choosing to give up meter to negate chip damage is a clever idea, as you ask the player, do we give up health or meter? It doesn't have the pushback yet that adds for more RPS situations, but we'll talk about that later. Because of the lack of pushback, it's a 7 out of 10, but it's very nice. And just defends are here, but they don't really do anything besides giving you an insta-kill buffer, so it's still to be a mechanic we recognise. I'll give it a 3 out of 10 for now. Speaking of offensive mechanics, let's look at insta-kills. This was the main mechanic of the game, as this is how the matches were played. They were hitboxes that were thrown out, and with the correct input you would get the kill. You can dodge it with the correct timing, and this game was reaction checks through insta-kills rather than a saucy confirm in the modern games. I would give it a 6 out of 10 since it is very fun, but the game was very insta-kill slugfest, as landing one won you the game, not the round, the game. The Gatling systems is here, and it's a little jank, but it's still fun basis for the future. It's a solid 8 out of 10. The meter system is also here and plays the same way as most Guilty Gears, except no halfway point for roaming cancels or any other unique mechanics. They just don't exist yet. Can only be used for supers when full. Still a good basis for the meter, the way it works with walking forward, hitting and everything like that, so 7 out of 10, but not higher due to the lack of creativity. Dust existed by pressing slash and heavy slash together, which was the overhead that we know today. However, you weren't going to land it in this game, but it was fairly cool and it will still carry on the same mechanic as for other games, so I'm going to give it like a 5 out of 10, 8 out of 10 in the future games. That's about it. There were 2 unique mechanics to Guilty Gear Missing Link. The first one was Desperation Mode. When the health bar got low, you gained access to infinite supers. A cool mechanic, but never really came into play as this game was infinite central. In a modern Guilty Gear like XRD, I would like to think this would be a fun mechanic. Here, it's a 4 out of 10 due to how unnecessary it was. The next mechanic was charges. Every character could charge a special in their kit. It was cool as it allowed for specials to become absurdly buff with the correct leeway and time that you were given. This would be a 9 out of 10 mechanic, but what it actually allowed for was charge cancels, and this was how infinites were done. Because of this, it meant it wasn't used for its intended purpose, taking it away from an interesting 9 out of 10 to a 3 out of 10. I want to see this come back though. When running, you can actually attack by continuing to run. It's neat, but like it's nothing really not though. You can R8 dash it to attack in the modern games, so it doesn't really add anything. 2 out of 10. Lastly, dizzies. This is a mechanic that I've never been a fan of unless it was Street Fighter 3. It punishes players for getting hit too much and can be easy to get in a game like Missing Link. Getting steamrolled in this game can be demotivating. A 3 out of 10, but it does allow for some funny moments. Things to note is that the taunts exist. They don't really do much, but they add a spice of disrespect. You can also use Respect Taunt to do cancels that are busted. So here, 1 out of 10, but in the other games they're getting a higher rating for sure. Well, that took a bit of time, and now it's time to look towards Accent Core Plus R. Accent Core still kept the fundamentals of Missing Link, but it upgraded to a solid degree. This is personally one of my favourite Guilty Gears. It has an updated look, the gameplay feels cleaner, and a lot less messier than Missing Link. The sprites are also fantastic to look at, but the audio design is still horrendous. But let's talk about the movement. The movement is still fantastic, but nothing new from Missing Link to Accent Core. Everything has been refined slightly, so slightly better than Missing Link. I'm not going to rate it here, but if you were talking about the movement being like 9 out of 10, it'd be 10 out of 10 here. However, the defense changed a ton from Missing Link to Accent Core. Backdashing now has recovery frames. Also, different characters got different backdashes as you'd expect, so it got a ton of iframes as they don't have defensive options, and some got spacing because that's what they would need. So the properties it has in this game are very balanced now simply because of the recovery and being specific to every character, so 9 out of 10. Instant blocks got their update to make them an interesting and fantastic layer to think about on defense. You get meter per insta block and it keeps the opponent closer. It also lessens frame advantage if you hit the timing. Awesome mechanic that makes tools more punishable or more challenging. Solid 9 out of 10. Faultless defense got changed that makes it what you recognize now. And now pushes back the opponent, allowing for spacing trap. Also lets you air block unblockables, adding reaction checks and defense in every scenario with the same sacrifices I talked about earlier. 10 out of 10 mechanic that changes how you think about blocking. A new mechanic, Burst, makes its appearance. The game starts with a full burst bar as you know, and you can use this to break out of any combo at any time. Once used, you need to build it back up to use it again. However, you can bait it by blocking, spacing it, or air throwing it. There's a genuine mind game going on at all times while Blue Burst is up. So 9 out of 10 mechanic that is always coming into play. Gold Burst is the offensive version of Blue Burst. It gives you a full bar meter if you land it. It has the same properties of Blue Burst, but you want to land this for offense instead. So 9 out of 10 as it offers the same mind games with a different outcome. Negative penalty punishes the player for pulling back too much. When you back up too much, burst and meter just vanishes. And this is cool until you remember that archetypes exist. Grapplers don't mind the negative penalty as they're never won back, but zoners are going to get heavily punished because they're playing their gimmick. This is kinda insane, and this is coming from a grappler, so 5 out of 10. The health system got an overall change. Instead of giving values, characters will now get defensive modifiers like 0.91, which will reduce the damage taken, and some will get 1.20, increasing the damage they take. This paired with the gut system, which increases your health's defensive values the lower your health is. 0 guts means your health won't get more defensive, and 5 guts meant you are near unkillable at low health. A cool mechanic that plays to characters' personalities and playstyles. 8 out of 10. Guard bar exists to make the players to be a bit more active on defense. The higher it got, the more damage you would do, and it would also give counter hits if it got to the full version. And it also gave counter hits if the bar ever got full, allowing for impossible combos to become real. When you landed a hit with the guard bar low, the less damage you took when hit, so it would chill on the steamrolling. 6 out of 10 is I think it wasn't needed as much, but it was very fun to mess around with. There are so many mechanics added to the offensive kit of the game. Tension has changed a massive amount, actually giving more uses besides supers. Roaming cancels are added to the game, but they don't slow down time. They allow for cancelling any attacks so you can start a new chain or do resets. Honestly, it allows for a ton of creativity. There's also FRCs, Force RCs, that don't need to hit the opponent to be cancelled. It's a cool mechanic, but it doesn't come with the slowdown, so I would say an 8 out of 10. You can use 25% of your meter to do an enhanced special. Potemkin gets air pot busters, Sol gets those sidewinder loops that are just gas. It adds a layer to using meter that adds a bit more flair to your gameplay. 9 out of 10, and I want it to come back. Counter hits got a major upgrade. Changing the properties of attacks on counter gives combo states that wouldn't happen normally, rewarding you for your sick timing. This stays consistent for the entirety of the Guilty Gear series, so a 9 out of 10. Counter hits are fun. Dizzies are still here, and you know my thoughts on that, but they also added a stagger tool. This makes it so some attacks leave the opponent standing, allowing for throws to connect on hit. A cool addition that allows for unique combos, but I dislike the way you deal with stagger. You have to wiggle the stick on hit, and this can lead to you getting hit if you're not used to the mechanics, so a 5 out of 10. Fun to use, but a horrible way to deal with it. Finally, the insta-kill. To activate it, you have to get into the mode, then press the input needed to do the follow-up. This is done to make it impossible to combo into, and the mode would also drain your meter, then your health, so you can't use FD. You had to make setups or get dizzies for practical uses, but it was cool as the animation is rad. Not practical, but added a ton of spice to your gameplay as intended. I hope it returns as it's an awesome mechanic. 10 out of 10. One thing I want to rank that isn't really a mechanic, but worth mentioning is the EX characters. When beating the arcade mode, you unlock an EX variant of that character, giving them new moves or even new playstyles. Honestly, I think this is really cool and adds so much replayability. 10 out of 10, bring it back. XRD was the release of one of the most beautiful anime games that was released. Making 3D models look like dynamic 2D animations was insanely well done for its time. It also kept the formula of accent core to a heavy degree with not much changes. They got rid of enhanced specials, which just seemed silly to me. I will also mention that I don't like XRD. I think it's a fun game, but it was never for me. When it comes to my taste in fighting games, I don't like it when games feel bloated or clunky to play, and XRD felt very clunky to me, and this was a modern-ish game, so it didn't have an excuse, is what I felt like. I'll also be honest, besides the changes to insta-kills, I don't like many of the new mechanics added to this Guilty Gear. Also, this will be the shortest game we'll cover as it is mostly accent core but with worse mechanics. First massive positive is the slight change to insta-kill. They made it possible to combo into it if you are one round away from winning, have meter, and the opponent is low. It becomes way faster, allowing for an easy confirm. Awesome change that lets you see the coolest animations. 10 out of 10. Please come back. Roaming cancels gotta change. They all stop time slightly and have different reasons for doing so. Red is on the active frames and gives easy combos. Because of the slowdown, you can do saucy things and combos of literally anything. Red is a 10 out of 10. Purple is used on recovery to make things no longer punishable and slow down things for rock, paper, scissors scenarios. Another 10 out of 10. However, YRC walks into the room. Yellow roaming cancel happens in neutral state or on the start above some attack. If your opponent is not in an attack stun, this can be done. It uses 25 meter instead of the usual 50, and it was really strong for certain characters to be used to do a projectile and then roaming cancel into it. You would send a projectile, do YRC, and it would allow for easy approaches. This can be done for approaches, feints, mix-ups, you name it. This ran the meta of the game and allowed for some degenerate stuff. I think it'd be fun to play with, but hard to balance. I'd give it a 7 out of 10, because I do see the fun in it, I just don't think it was necessary for the game. This game got a bunch of new mechanics like blitz shielding. When using 25 meter, you can perform an almost focus attack like animation like in Street Fighter 4 to take a hit and then send one back. Using it like a parry can open up the enemy, and it was like an anti-guard crush, but holding it did an attack right back, and it did a ton. Personally, I don't like this as it creates a layer of looking out for meter that wasn't really needed in a game like XRD. The shielding is neat, but the attack afterwards just seemed very silly to me and made me feel like it was trying to copy a mechanic without really understanding it. 3 out of 10. Burst supers are introduced and they use your entire burst to do a super that does a ton and good minimum scaling. It buffs your supers, making it a good tool to use to confirm a dub. I like this actually. Without guts and health work, you have to be smart with it, you can't just send it, so I like this. 9 out of 10. Place your supers well. Hellfire is a new mechanic that gives the game a bit of flair. When your health is low, your supers hit even harder, making for exciting comebacks to steal away a win from the opponent. I don't mind this as a comeback mechanic because it reminds me more of a balanced Rage from Tekken. Tekken applies a damage buff to everything, making Rage actually insane. Only applying it to supers is smart as you need to land the super to reap the rewards. 8 out of 10 for bringing you back to life. We have the new risk changes instead of the guard bar. This basically acts the exact same way as the guard bar, except when it's full, you start hitting mortal counters. This is an enhanced counter hit that hits way too hard. Punishes blockers like mentioned with the guard bar. 7 out of 10 as the mortal counters are really fun. Don't know if it's necessary, but the hype and aura is there. Lastly, Danger Time, 0 out of 10. A random minigame happening that makes both players get into the TOD simulator does not sound fun to me. It has a 30% chance to kick out in every clash. Honestly, a turn off for me. Time for Strive. This game I have a bias for as it was the Guilty Gear game that I poured a ton of time into, so much so that I compete in it. Pretty washed now, but this is still one of my favourite fighting games for its visual flair. It had some things going for it, but as the game went on, it added things I really disliked. A lot of mechanics I need to reevaluate as they changed it so much from XR. The movement became slower, so this will be a general rating for that movement. Honestly, I like slower movement as I'm not a big fan of anime movement. That's why I play characters like Potemkin or Tiger. The slower movement is to my feel, but to everyone else's, not so much. So I will say 6 out of 10. For me personally, 9 out of 10. But I totally see being a 6 out of 10 because a lot of characters do get limited compared to their previous entries. Defense changed a ton, and we can tell by looking at instant blocks. It no longer changes frame data and only keeps the enemy close whilst negating chip damage. It also became harder to do with little reward. I'd give it 4 out of 10 as it's only needed a high level of play but still rewards learning it. I just wish that there was more reward as it's not easy, it's so hard. Backdash changed to suit the game, losing a ton of iframes to a massive degree. I don't mind this, so I'd say a 7 out of 10. Faultless defense stayed the same, but we got a new mechanic called IBFD, also known as Instant Block Faultless Defense. Performing this sends the enemy flying back, almost making offense impossible if you get it down. Still super hard, but you actually do get a massive reward, so 8 out of 10. A new one that I don't mind as much is the Flex Shield. Using 50 burst, you can push back any attack, being high, low, guard crush, you name it. However, against Mirror isn't that good because the opponent can just approach you right back in, so you've wasted 50 burst for nothing. Because it's attached to dust, sometimes you'll get throw by accident, and then when you want to back throw, you get the Flex Shield by accident. It has issues. 5 out of 10 for a neat idea, with it needing more tweaks for sure. Lastly, Yellow Roman Cancel got changed into an alpha parry. On block, you can use it to push back any attack with 50 meter. I like this as you can bait it with jump cancels or use Roman cancels. 9 out of 10 changed for YRC. Burst changed now to be full screen. Getting rid of spacing traps, I kinda hate this as it means that you have to worry about jump cancels and Roman cancels rather than going for spacing traps or tools that completely avoid it. Not a fan compared to Accent Core or XR. 3 out of 10. This is where some of the issues come up. I'll get started with Wild Assault. Treating it as a whole, Blue Wild Assault allows for continued offense, Orange leads to combo confirms, and White allows for neutral skips to get back into attacks. I don't like this addition as the game now becomes who can use Wild Assault better. Potemkin becomes unstoppable, Happy Chaos gets Build-A-Bear mix, Melia can't drop a combo for a wall break. You get the idea, it's overtuned. However, it's hard to balance as it uses half a bar of burst, so it has to be strong. I don't know what they're going to do because I can't even make suggestions to sort it out. I would remove it as it's affected the game so heavily in an offensive way where it's became very resource heavy. 1 out of 10. Guard crushes are another new mechanic. Fuzzy defense was strong in Guilty Gear Xrd. I think they want to get rid of that defense, so most of the roster got a guard crush. When a guard crush happens, you have to hold back to block. You can't do neutral blocks anymore. And now throw protection disappears, meaning you can be grabbed frame 1 of neutral. So you have to jump command grabs or tech the throw. I like it for Potemkin, but for every other avenue of the game, I kinda dislike it. Some characters need it to threaten strike, but losing fuzzy defense altogether does suck. 5 out of 10 mechanic. Wall breaks are a sick mechanic. It allows for chase outs near the wall and gives a neutral reset. I'm not too bothered about the neutral reset, but breaking the wall and doing a ton of damage is super satisfying. You also get positive bonus, which we'll get into later. 9 out of 10 mechanic, just for the fun factor. Positive bonus is another issue though. When getting a wall break, you'll be rewarded with this. It ignores meter penalties and gives you more meter over time. It's super strong. It can lead to pure snowballs after a wall break super, leading to the game being just resources. Again, this is a major problem with current Strive. 4 out of 10 because it does allow for some creativity in offense, but it leads to a very unfun game to play or watch at times. Goal Burst changed now to give positive bonus rather than the 100 meter. As I mentioned, I think positive bonus is insane, so 5 out of 10. The 100 meter is honestly more balanced. Now roaming cancels, red and purple are about the same, so I'm not going to talk about them, but blue roaming cancel is new and it has to be done in neutral or off a jump. It causes a ton of slowdown, allowing for full control of a situation. Nothing guaranteed, but it can be used to take the pace from your opponent in a unique way. It's pretty neat and can lead to nasty mixes. 8 out of 10 for creativity. We also got a new roaming cancel thing known as fast roaming cancels. If you do a button whilst in the roaming cancel state, you'll come immediately out of it and get refunded a tiny bit of meter, allowing for confirms you can't get normally, and it also rewards execution. Very fun, 9 out of 10. Yeah, that is it fellas. I had a ton of fun kind of going over all of the Guilty Gear mechanics. I would say Strive had some of the worst inclusions, XRD is in second place for some of the worst inclusions, and Accent Core in my mind had some of the best mechanics in the series, and I want to see him come back for sure. After doing Grab, I'm trying to sort out other content avenues right now, so that's the main goal. I am hosting the Wacky Pandemonium as a bi-weekly now, which is a tournament where you play in the 3v3 mode, but in a 1v1 with builds. It's super interesting and super unique. But that'll be it for today's video. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, hype it up, check out these Terrapins, and check out the membership system if you really want to support me. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.